Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we're digging deep into the heart of my Ducati Hyperstrada 821. I've already gotten down quite a ways. We're going to check the valves next and replace the timing belts. So first up is checking the valves before I pull the timing belts off, just because I want to do it that way. And if you're curious how I got this far, well, up to a point, check out my air filter replacement video, which removed quite a bit of stuff just to get down to the air filter, at least through the gas tank, and then that's sort of where I left off. And that's where I'm picking up now. So I've already pulled off everything else, as you can see, to get to what I need to now. Vertical cylinder head valves, cams, and horizontal down here, as you can see, and the timing belts. So I thought I'd just give a quick update on what it took to get this far. So after I got the air filter in, really the next thing I tackled was getting the, well, just the horizontal exhaust pipe and the silencer off. So that was pretty straightforward. There is a cable that connects onto the bottom of the exhaust, which is under a little metal cover that you've got to undo the cable. And then once you undo that cable, the next little hard piece to get to was under here. I'll pull it out real quick. Was this guy here. And I couldn't get a straight shot on it, and it's got these tiny little hex head soft bolts. So what I did is I pulled the brake lever off just so I could get clean access to that, because I didn't want to strip anything out. So yeah, there's my box with my brake lever, my exhaust springs, and this is that little cover for the cable that actuates a little valve inside of the exhaust. So as you can see, my exhaust, along with everything else I've taken off here. Once you get that off, everything else is pretty straightforward. The only thing I had a little trouble with was the upper vertical cylinder timing belt cover. And there's not a lot of room for it to slip up out of here and up kind of where the gas tank seat comes. Fortunately, the covers are plastic. Well, I guess that's good. So you can, bend them ever so slightly to get them out of there. The middle cover and the bottom one just come right off, no big deal. So that's where we are now. I've got this thing lined up with the horizontal TDC, and you've probably seen other videos on this too, but I'll just point it out here. It's the mark on this pulley with a little mark on the case that lines up here to make sure this guy is at top dead center. So the other issue, so you can measure the valves on this guy once everything's lined up there, which makes that pretty easy. And then the only other, it's not really a trick, but you just need to make sure you get the vertical cylinder into top dead center before you check the valves there, to make sure make sure the valves are closed and everything's ready to be checked. So what I noticed on mine is, at least on this horizontal cylinder, there were some markings already there. Not just the one that lines up with the case, but over here. And obviously just looking at them, they don't seem to line up to anything at all, which it may or may not be true. But what I did notice is when I'm turning the rear wheel in 6th gear, just to rotate the cylinder, the crank. So what I did notice, if I can set this here, is once I get my vertical cylinder to TDC, by rotating the wheel, I'm not even going to really look at it at the moment, but what comes into play is right about there. What we've got is, at least on my bike, just so I can eyeball it, is back on this pulley. This yellow mark is now directly at the 3 o'clock mark, and then the yellow marks on these other 2 pulleys on the cams line up with each other. So 6 o'clock and 12 o'clock here, along with the case, and that is, at least on my bike, top dead center up here. So if we look at this, we can see both of the inlet, the opening valves for the inlet and the exhaust are all open, and same with the closing. So anyway, that makes that and checking the valve clearances pretty easy. So I'm going to leave this vertical cylinder at TDC and check these valves and the clearances for this first, and then we'll go on to the horizontal cylinder. And assuming, well, hoping everything is in spec, meaning I won't have to pull any camshafts out and replace the spacers for the valves. If everything's in spec, we'll just leave it, and then we'll tackle the timing belt. So I'm going to get my tools out, and we'll measure these guys here real quick. Okay, so I've already gone ahead and checked everything. I've checked all the valve clearances on the vertical cylinder and the horizontal. And everything is in spec. It's very close though. So over here, I have my trusty service manual, and under the highlighted version gives you the specifications for the different valve clearances for the intake and exhaust opening rocker arms and the intake exhaust closing rocker arms. So as you can see, there's 2 sets of numbers there. The first column of numbers is the spec, is the sort of the build spec. So when they build this, that's what the tolerances are. The far right column is the tolerances for checking at a service interval. So what we're doing here. As you can see, they're a little bit larger, so you've got a little bit more to work with. And in my case, that's pretty fortunate because I got just out to the edge on a few of the closing rocker arms. They measured almost right at that 0.15 millimeter. But since it is spec and I don't feel like pulling it apart this time around, I'm going to leave it there, and maybe I'll just check it a little bit sooner before the next Desmo service interval approaches. So if we go back over here. Look at this. I can balance my camera, still get it to show. Maybe a trick. All right. So hopefully this will show up on film. If not, I mean, this is kind of just for my recording for my history more than anything, and there's a lot of other videos on this too. But as far as this 821 goes, so of course, since we've got the Desmo, we've got 4 openers and 4 closers. So we've got 8 clearances to measure. All of the openers should be have the same spec, and all the closers have the same spec. So if we look at the closers, according to what I showed you on the manual, 0.05 to 0.15. So just in general, I'm not going to spend a great deal of time on this, but I'm going to pull out a 0.05 just to show you that the 0.05 goes in, although my 0.05 has had a little issue at the end of it there. Oh. And we're going to redo that since I had them stuck together. So edit out, hopefully. Alright, so I'm going to show you with the 0.05 that the 0.05 can slide down pretty easy, actually very easy, into each one. So then that means we need to check the upper end of the clearance, which is 0.15. And assuming that guy doesn't go in, then we should be within spec. And then I will, and have actually measured sort of to write each one down just so I have it in history and I can reference it next time. So again, so now if I go with the 0.15, it doesn't go, doesn't go, doesn't go, doesn't go. So those are all within the tolerance, and we're going to leave those. The horizontal cylinder was the same, fortunately. So now we're going to check the opening rocker arms, and those are between 0.1 and 0.25. So with the 0.1, goes in nice and pretty easy, most of them. And I know that these are not very big, or the tolerance doesn't go up too high, so 0.25 is pretty thick. So I'm going to use a 0.15. I think that's what I had, just to show you that that doesn't go, nope, and nope. So for my opening valves, my measurements are between the 0.10 and the 0.15. So still within spec and all good, and that was the same results on the horizontal cylinder. So we are going to be good with that. I think I mentioned the closers on a couple of these really came out to, I think, the 0.15, just like it would just barely get in there and drag, and it shouldn't be any greater than that. And so hopefully that'll hold for a while, but we're going to leave it as is and then move on to the timing belts. So if you have any questions, comments, anything like that, as always, just let me know. I was trying to think if there was anything else important, but I can't think of it at the moment. I've got some new timing belts. We'll tackle that next. Thanks.